Hey there folks, rather than doing a usual cold open, here's a little bit of a disclaimer. In early May, I was contacted by AstrHori about doing a review of their new XH-2 Lightmeter. In return for doing the review, they have sent me a free copy of that meter, but set no requirements on having to give it a positive review. So the following review is my own opinion and view on the meter and is no way influenced by the manufacturer. All right, let's get started. Hey there friends, welcome back to the channel. My name's Alex Laux, and you know that if my Mamiya is in this configuration, I'm going to be reviewing a hot shoe meter, and not just any hot shoe meter, the latest release from AstrHori, the XH-2. So let's go back to the studio. I can give you a brief overview of the meter and take a closer look, and I will meet you back out here in a few. So during my time as a film photographer, I've used 3 different hot shoe, accessory shoe meters. I first got into these particular types of meters after getting a Barnack Leica, a Leica 3F. And I was at a camera show and I actually found a Lights branded accessory meter. Unfortunately, after a bit of investigation and chatting with the gentleman who was selling it, it turns out this was actually for the M series of Leicas and wouldn't work as it should on my Barnack Leica. So he was the one who suggested I try a Voigtlander VC2, and he knew of someone actually at the camera show that was selling one. So I immediately went over, I bought a gently used one, so it was pretty much new in box, and I got to work. And I loved this meter. It was simple, it was easy to use, and it was generally enjoyable to work with. Unfortunately, over the course of my time using it, it translated from my 3F to an older 3C, and then it disappeared. I think I lost it somewhere in New York City, so I'm sure someone has found it and made good use out of it. And if you happen to have found it and found this video, I hope that meter worked as well for you as it did for me. Unfortunately, after I eventually fell out of favor with the Barnack Leicas, and I went on to not use such a meter for many, many years until Matt Betchberger of Ravenny Labs introduced their original hot shoe meter. Now this thing was tiny and it was absolutely brilliant to use, and I still keep it and use it every so often. I most recently used it on my Nikon FE2 when I was using the FPP black and white infrared film because that deep red filter I had on the front of the lens was too dark for the internal meter to work, and it did a brilliant job. Now, one thing is that when I was doing those rolls, I had already been contacted by AstrHori about reviewing their latest meter, the XH-2. Now, this is the 3rd accessory shoe meter that I've ever used and ever reviewed, and let me tell you, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. So let's go in and take a closer look at the meter. Okay, so here is the meter as it comes to you from the factory. I really like the clean box design, and you're kind of getting a taste for what the meter is going to be looking like right here. So in the box, you get your instruction manual. It comes in both Chinese and English. So it is relatively easy to get a handle on it. They also have QR codes for their various social media feeds. I do recommend giving them a follow. They produce a lot of really interesting both lenses and other camera accessories out there. So we'll get back to this a little bit later. Also in the box comes a short USB-C cable. This is used for charging the light meter itself. And then you have the actual light meter. Now, the first thing you're going to realize is that this does not look like any previous standard accessory shoe based light meter. Most of them you expect to be oriented like this, with your control surface on the back and the actual metering cell here on the front. Instead, it's sort of arranged in a longer, more than a wider design. And it is a lot bigger than I expected when I first saw a sample image, when I was first contacted by the company. It is based around a single small OLED screen right here on the top and a single control dial for adjusting settings here. And then you have your function button there and your metering cell at the front. And on the bottom you have your USB-C port. This is for charging the internal battery, and the shoe itself. It's not plastic. This thing is made out of metal, so it is fairly weighty as well. It's almost as if it is designed with a rangefinder in mind when mounting it, but you don't have to worry about it. It does fit well on SLRs and doesn't actually interfere with using the pentaprism. I do like the top screen, so if you do have a camera with a grip on the side that has an accessory shoe on it, you can actually have it right there at your thumb to press the function button to take the meter reading, and works well with the waist level finder. Unfortunately, the camera I'm going to be using today, I'm going to have to use the prism finder because it's the only thing on the camera that actually has an accessory shoe on it. So it might be something worthwhile for me to find a way to adapt and maybe talk to a few people about getting something 3D printed to mount on the side of my Mamiya to make use of this, and also any other accessory shoe meter I have. So to turn it on, you simply press the button here and it pops up. You got this really bright screen. It also shows you your battery life here and your ISO, and you simply adjust it here, and that gives you what it is. And then you press it again to get your meter reading, and it displays it. The sensor has about a 30-degree averaging field of view, so it works really well for most lenses. I wouldn't use it for anything longer than, say, maybe 105 millimeters. You might be able to get away with 135 millimeters as well if you're really, really careful. The one thing that I do feel is a problem with this is trying to figure out the different button push combinations to get to the different settings. I mean, it's fairly easy to switch between aperture priority and shutter priority. It's just a double press of that rear button. The real thing is getting into the other settings. There is a series of combinations that are all laid out in your manual. So it will take a bit of time to get between all the settings. The real one is getting that ISO adjustment, because it's like it says double click the key and press the key for about half a second for the second time to switch to the ISO development. So there we go. So there you go. I've just successfully adjusted it to the ISO that I'll be shooting for the field review. What's really nice is that it does have the internal battery, so you're not constantly swapping, and it does have a very quick timeout. And then it's just a single push to get it back up, and it will immediately take that next meter reading for you. So it does really save on the battery life. They do rate it at, I think it handles several hours. The battery itself is an 80 milliamp hour lithium ion battery. Yeah, it doesn't actually say what the expected battery life is, but something like that, and the low power needed for it. Oh, there we go. Has about 10 hours of battery life in it, so that's constant. So it's actually really efficient when it comes to battery, and it goes to full charge in about half an hour. And that can either be done through a computer interface or a one of your home outlets that's been connected to it. So it actually looks really good on a camera, and I have my Mamiya M645 here, which is what I'll be using, and it just slides into the accessory shoe here. And you can kind of see that it's going to pop out a little bit from it, but it actually won't affect where your head hits the prism finder. Okay, so I think that about covers it for the in-studio stuff. Let's get back out into the field and I can talk about the field experiences and the results of working with this particular meter. All right, see you in a few. All right, so for today's field portion, I'm shooting my Mamiya M645 and it's configured with the prism finder and left grip. I got the 35mm f3.5 lens mounted on it, and I have a roll of Ilford Ortho Plus in the camera. I'm going to be shooting it at ASA 160, so that's one stop under, and I'm going to be developing it in diaphine using a 3.5 plus 3.5 development time. All right, I'm here at Sheridan College in Oakville, Ontario. Let's see what I can find. Let's go.
When it comes to any accessory light meter, there are two things that matter: how well it handles in the field and how accurate it is. And I can honestly say that the XH-2 performs well in both categories. The OLED screen works well in both low and hard lighting and is easily read, even for the small size, as the text is big and clear. The meter powers on quickly from both a full turned off state to the hibernation mode, and the 10-hour battery life and charging times are accurate to the specifications. Moving between the two main modes is easy with a standard double click, and there's enough friction on that command dial so that it doesn't spin freely, but only takes a little bit of effort to adjust. The 30-degree angle gives a good coverage for ultra-wide to portrait length lenses. The one thing you should watch out for is misaiming that metering element and catching too much of an area you don't want included. Accuracy-wise, the meter gives similar readings to my Gaussian Luna 6 and Reveni Lab meters. I would say it's almost too accurate, as some of the readings I got didn't have shutter speed or apertures available for me. But with only a third stop difference, I played into the latitude of film I was using, and even with slide film, you won't have to worry too much about that.
Okay, so there we go. All 15 frames shot, and I am really happy with the performance of this meter. Now today I am lucky in the sense that it's a fairly overcast, even light day, which makes it difficult to confuse the average meter. But what else can you use this little thing for? I mean, I have it here on an SLR, but what about other cameras? What applications is the XH-2 good for? Let's go back to the studio and talk about that, and I'll meet you back here in a few. So what are the primary application of this meter? Well, like any accessory shoe meter, the XH-2 is a great choice if you have a camera that either A, the meter doesn't work or doesn't work well, or simply doesn't have a meter, period. Most cameras do come with an accessory shoe, which means that this meter can be mounted. Now, primarily based on the design and look of the meter, I would say this is perfect for any rangefinder cameras. It works well on my Contax 3A, and if you take a look at some of the promotional images, they are on rangefinder cameras such as Leica's, the Texas Leica, the Fujifilm GW series, the 670 and the 690. Great options for those cameras, especially with that 30-degree angle. But don't just stick to rangefinder. That works really well on SLRs too. And as primarily an SLR shooter with two SLRs that either have, both in case, have a non-functioning meter and a meter that doesn't work accurately, it works really well despite the size. It doesn't actually interfere with how I use the camera and the pentaprism. I do wish that I could get something for my Pony 135. I think this meter would be perfect for it, and I might have to try and MacGyver something to make that camera useful, in the sense of having a meter and not having to either A, hand hold this thing and lose it, or carry around a hefty external meter. But it really is a great option in what is now a very saturated field of accessory shoe meters, and I think the XH-2 really stands out based on it. Well folks, that about covers it for this video. I want to first of all thank AstrHori for reaching out to me and sending me this beautiful meter for free to review for you. If you want to purchase one of your own, it is available for sale directly on the AstrHori site, and you can find a link in the description below. Just know that this link is not an affiliate link, and I make no money off of any sales generated from this. At $79 US, it is actually a really sweet deal. And the meter itself, I feel, is worth much more. So the fact that we're getting it for a good price is even better. This will definitely be a meter that I will be carrying around with me, and it will be excellent for use with my Mamiya, especially after I get a modification to get that meter mounted onto my left-hand grip. I think it would make a great addition and accessory for my on-the-road videos, because you know how much I love using the waist level finder. So yes, let me know in the comments below, what have been your experiences with accessory shoe meters? Which one is your favorite? There's a plethora of them out there, so let me know. And if you definitely want me to review one of them, also let me know which one I should review next. Until next time, friends, my name's Alex Laux. Shoot what you love, with what you love, on what you love. Don't give in to the hype.